Yep. How you lot doing? Pleasant Sunday evening. Let's say a massive big up to everyone already who's just left out little comments on there. Yep. OPME, thank you very much. Big show tonight. I'm predicting repeat, and I think Yarde will be looking to put on a dominant display. I'm saying Yarde KO inside 7. Daz, my guy, big up yourself. Zhang to do the same thing and stop Joe late. He's some heavy-handed weapon, Zhang. Blood Clot Boxing has said, I assume the one who has the shiny face, but Mr. Babatunde Ajayi won't be present as he's in camp. You're absolutely right. So big up Spencer the Knowledge, fair on. Thank you, sir, for this one tonight. We appreciate it, sir. Big up Jermaine Williams. Jermaine, my condolences about your mother as well. I know you just returned back from Jamaica after burying her, so my heart goes out to you and all your family. Big up Elliot Francis, Phil Answer, Double AV Develops. Big up Tundi, big up Yemi. Dan the Man, big up yourself. You know what? Everyone is quite a few. Reese Jones, big up yourself. Sugar Ray 29, big up. They're all coming in. Alfie Black, salute. BK Better Life, greetings, Master Lodge, and greetings to you as well. Boy, you know what, Jermaine? I feel your pain, my friend, but you're going to realize that they don't really die, you know. They die in the physical, but they're there with you, man. So, you know what I mean? So, yeah, I mean, peace to Mommy Williams. And, you know what I mean? And yet again, my condolences to Jermaine Williams. Right. So, got a couple of guests today, and I'm going to start with the real guy. JD Dyer, big up yourself, man. How's everything going, man? I see you doing your great stuff. Let me just introduce our first guest for The Fight Is Right. Dream it, believe it, become it. Come on up. It is a plum pleasing pleasure for me to introduce the veteran actor, the legendary actor, the star, one of the stars of Some Other Hood, a star of Lock, Stock and Two Smoking Barrels, Rory Breaker, the star of Only Fools and Horses when he was in it as the Scarlet Pimpernel, the Shadow. Let me bring in my longtime brother from another mother. And also, I'm going to forget this one, you know, because Kano was in this movie as well. I was in the movie as well, rolling with the nines. Let me big up the legendary Vas Blackwood.
Yo, what's happening? That's a lovely intro.
Yeah, what? I'm learning, man. I'm learning, bro. I'm learning. I've been around Tundi for a long time now. Vas, what's cracking, my friend? A lot of people don't know that you're a big boxing fan, you know?
Yeah, I'm a huge boxing fan. Back in the day, always go to the fights. Yeah, I'm a big boxing fan. Yeah. Thanks to my father. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
We'll see you in like you're in some big movie right now.
Yeah. Okay. So October the 19th, Some Other Hood. Adam Deacon. It's his sequel to Another Hood. Mm-hmm. And it's Paramount Pictures, 550, I think, not actually 700 cinemas up and down the country. And it's got a really good cast. It's a really kind of it's urban. It's got a serious angle. It's got a comedic angle, which is what, as we know, which is what life is all about. Because 1 minute it's good, next minute it's sad, you know. So it hits the notes, and most of all, it's British, Black British, urban British.
Right.
Ed Sheeran's in it, playing a crackhead.
I see that.
Yeah.
I see that in the clip. So, like, how did you get that? What role do you play, Vas?
Well, funnily enough, I play a racist detective.
Okay.
Who doesn't like black people.
All right. So you're actually playing yourself then?
No.
Okay.
Let me tell
Okay.
you. I'll tell you. The funny thing is that okay, so Adam wrote the script. There was there obviously, he wrote the script, he got the script to that stage where eventually 6 7 8 years later, and I say that because anyone listening, it's always possible, it's always possible. So if you
Right.
write, keep pushing. Jaws, the movie Jaws, I think it was on the shelf for 15 years, so people were rejecting it. So Adam anyway got this to where he needed to get it, and the film then got invested, they got the investment. And what
Mm-hmm.
happened was that the script was so it was on point, urban on point, the flavor. You'll see when you see the film. And what they did, they offered the role, which I play now, to Nick Frost. This is the first time people are hearing this because
Right.
I haven't done many interviews yet for some of the hood, but we are coming up to them. So I will be mentioning this again. So Nick Frost got offered that role, my role. And he's, Nick Frost, he's
Oh, Vas, we're kind of losing you there,
Shaun
mate.
of the Dead. Yeah, Shaun of the Dead. Big Nick Frost.
Yep.
I think yeah. He's a really good actor, brilliant actor, and he's also a great writer. He's a great creative, good man, show business, British top boy, and he said, "Nah, no." When he read reading the script, then he got to the copper, because obviously there's problems going on the street, so there's got to be a detective who's going to come after them. And he said, no. If you get a white actor to play that, this is a brilliant script. You're going to lose your audience. You're going to lose them. They're going to get a bit upset because of the lyrics that come out of this fella's mouth.
Okay.
So he said, but what I suggest you do, get a good black actor to play him. And they got me.
Okay.
Yeah.
And they got you.
And he's probably the best. I think for me, it's my best role to date because of the lyrics. Some of the words that come out of my mouth regarding black people, as far as I'm concerned, they're going to become iconic.
Okay.
Yeah. Amongst black
Well,
people.
well, we've seen some iconic things like this. Wait a minute. Tell me tell me that you watched Top Boy.
Well, I've not watched the new series, not yet. I'm
Okay.
gonna wait. I'm watching it with my son. He's just started. He's just done his GCSEs. Went on holidays. They got back, and he's just started this new degree that he's doing. A
Oh,
course
well
that he's
done.
doing.
Congratulations to
Yeah,
young
he got away. He
young
got away with
Blackwood.
it. Yeah, Raphael. Yeah. So we're gonna
Okay.
sit down and watch it together. But he's just been snowed in a bit with work, and also, he's doing. He's just joined my agency as well because he acts.
Okay.
So he's got a few things on his plate. So we're gonna sit down and do that. But Ashley's my boy, and Kano, and I'm gonna watch that. Don't worry about that.
Well, it's blinding. It was anticlimactic, but it's a very, very good watch. And I would suggest to anyone, if you haven't watched it, Top Boy, the final series,
Yeah,
go and watch it. Yeah, I mean,
100%.
I really, it's just proper. It's proper. But I'm saying and also, man, seem to forget that you was in the Lenny Henry show.
Yeah, that's right. So,
You was a
yeah.
sidekick to Lenny Henry. What's your name in
Winston,
that? Winston, isn't it?
Winston, yeah, Delbert,
It's
and
Winston, yeah.
we had Brixton BBC, Brixton Broadcasting Corporation.
Yep.
Yeah, a pirate radio station. Yeah.
That's crazy, because
Yeah.
I don't think you understand, as a youth growing up, yeah,
Yeah.
to see that being projected
Yeah.
was way before its time,
Yeah.
because it was way before its time, and yeah, I missed that show.
Yeah. I mean, look, listen, it was fly, it was fresh, all the style, and Sir Lenny, regardless of anything, he was just doing his thing, and we did 2 years, 2 seasons of that, and it was good fun, and it was really good. And as I said, it had a bit of style, it had a bit of flair. Getting back to what you've just said, actually, regarding Top Boy, the thing is, I just can't believe, right, the lack, right, or the lessening of black urban or whatever programs that are on TV. Some people say to me, Vass, you haven't looked properly because there's someone catch up TV, there's this, there's that. But no, 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 no. You got to remember when we were doing work, when I was doing Delbert Wilkins, BBC broadcasting, all of that. That was like mainstream BBC. That was on mainstream BBC. That was on like BBC One, right?
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, I do recall. I know we've got the 5 channels, and then they're all broken up into these all kind of like these different platforms and catch up TV and this, that, and the other. But considering I've been an actor now, I started to hustle, right, as an actor, professional actor. I've never done anything else from the age of 18, right? And voiceovers, right, everything. This is my game. This is what I do, show business. And to considering if I switched on my television, BBC One, 2, ITV, or Channel 4, or even Channel 5, those main 5 core channels, which are the hub, which are the heartbeat of all the other little subsidiaries that they've got, there's not one black sitcom. There's not one black sitcom. Drake say Top Boy. Do you know what I mean? So it's like, I personally think to myself, sometimes people say to me, racism, this, that, the black struggle, how do you think it is now in England and this, that, and the other? And I look and I laugh because I said to myself, because I read a lot, you see, so I don't get too frustrated because the more, with knowledge comes wisdom. And the more I read, I'm reading about more things of how great my ancestors were. And don't get me wrong, and how collaborative they were with Europeans, just as we are now, because this is a multiracial society that we live in, and I'm very shocked. I'm still shocked. And I don't care what they say. They know Netflix, Amazon Prime. They're not, I see so many programs that are kickoffs from what they used to have, say, on ITV, BBC One, BBC Two, like kind of with a lot of, let's just say it straight, white actors, white type shows, whether they're World War One, World War Two, period drama, this, that, and the other. But they used to have that on those mainstream channels with 17 million people watching it. When I did Only Fools and Horses on that Saturday, there was 17 million people watching that. Do you know what I mean? Don't worry about followers, 17 people million. And the strangest thing is that when it was shown then, I'm still getting massive kickbacks now.
Yeah, I know you are, because everyone. I remember we was at a boxing show a few years ago. Spencer Oliver put on a show. Remember we was down there, yeah, black tie event. I remember we was going there, and everyone's coming, look,
Shadow,
Scarlet Pimpernel, the Shadow. Yeah, I remember that.
Yeah, and it's actually shown on Gold. So there's this kind of like generational thing with it. Guys are telling me, like, my generation saying their children love it, and their children, their grandchild's sitting in front of it laughing as well. 3, 4, 5, getting into the vibe. So what I'm saying is that I just still don't quite understand why it is like it is, and I'm not going to put it down to racism. I just think that they still don't get it. How many of these big top executives have been into a West Indian takeaway and got oxtail and rice and peas? How many have really gone in there and got it? But forget carnival. You got to know me. You got to know my culture. You understand me? Because because the more I read, I love my culture. And I tell my children, if you know your culture, you'll get everywhere in this world. Forget degrees. It's all about culture. I went to Oxford Union and was dropping it like that as well. In the Oxford Union, I had to go on a debate there, and I stole it with the word culture, because culture is very important. And I think they tend to not want to give us the chance because there's so many talents. Even the young guy, the engineer, your producer, talent. Yeah. I hear him all the time, and I would not like to think that they're being suppressed. But we'll get to that. We'll find out, because whatever's in the dark will come out in the light. So
yeah, most definitely. And before anybody is saying like, oh, Vas Blackwood is on this race talk and blah blah blah. One second, Vas Blackwood's children actually dual heritage, right? So let's cut that one dead, and I've met his beautiful missus as well. You know what I mean?
No, you
Who's
haven't.
a,
No, you haven't.
yes, I have.
No, you haven't.
Yes, I have.
That's someone else. You meet someone else. It's not the
But oh,
president.
God, me, I'll put you in that trouble now.
Maybe the mother of Raphael and Carla, maybe,
Yeah, yeah,
but
yeah.
not,
Okay,
not like,
okay,
yeah.
right. So yeah, so I
It's all right.
don't. Yeah,
It's good.
right.
It's good. It's good.
I mean, I wipe the sweat to my wife. No, so I'm just saying. So like, but no, back on boxing because this was actually
Yeah.
for about Zhang and Joyce. I know you watched the first fight,
Yeah.
right? Because a lot of people, like I'm saying, when I mean like Vas is a big boxing fan,
Yeah.
massive boxing fan. I remember Vas from back in the day, from when he used to go watch Lloyd Hannigan fight. Yeah, I mean, this is in the 80s, right?
I used to read about you as well in boxing news when you were up and coming.
Yeah, the good
Yeah,
old
I was
days, man.
a big fan, man.
Thank you
Big
very
fan.
much, sir.
Big fan.
Right.
It
So
was
I'm saying
injuries. It was injuries. It was injuries. It was injuries.
I had dodgy knees. I had a dodgy knee
Yeah.
and a dodgy
Yeah.
chin.
Yeah.
But so I'm saying to you, like, when you on the fights with Joyce, yeah, did you
Mhm.
think that Zhang was gonna beat him? Because I remember after the fight you tweeted me. So you know what I mean, I'm saying,
Well,
what did you
yeah.
think?
I, I wasn't. I mean, see, the thing is that I'd seen Zhang fight a couple of times, but then what I was doing, I was picking up more, I was reading more stuff about what comments some good journalists, boxing journalists, were saying about Zhang. But I'd watched Joe fight quite a few times, and
Mm,
especially with the Daniel Dubois fight, you know, and they say styles makes fights. This is
yep.
very crucial and very, I think, elemental in what I'm trying to say here now. Styles make fights. But one thing about Zhang, if you check his record out, he's fought quite a few good movers, you know, like fighters he's got some skills, he's got some movement, he's got a lot of movement. I mean, I wouldn't say Daniel's one dimensional, but he's got a lot of brawn. He's got a lot. Daniel's an excellent fighter, and I do believe I'm not switching from it, but I do believe he did. That was a great body punch against
Yeah,
Usyk. I don't care what anyone
I agree with that as well. I'm not going to disagree with you
bang
on
on,
that one.
and I believe that's what Charles they were working on that, and that was a
Yeah,
spot on. And Tyson Fury's watched that and just licking his lips because that's not a problem, honestly, because
yeah, yeah,
he didn't like that body punch. But when Daniel and Joe, got it on. I felt as though Joe, he does take a lot of punches, right? He does,
yeah,
and it's a juggernaut thing, the no whole name. But if you meet a heavyweight that's got some movement and some skills, especially in the first few rounds, like 6, 7 rounds, because I was hearing that Zhang was going to give him trouble, for the first few rounds, and
yeah, and then
then
tail off. Yeah,
yeah, but it was more than trouble because the jab and the powerful jab and movement and kept on going at him, and you start to see Joe's face, and he can't do that. It was a big reveal, really, and I was really shocked. I was really shocked. I didn't know because I watch most fights. I'd say most fights, bar when Mike Tyson was in his element. Most fights, I say, best man wins, especially when it comes to the heavyweights, to a certain extent. Because I've never seen a fighter like Mike Tyson when Mike Tyson was in his element because he didn't say much. And even the music, when he came on with that towel wrapped over him, and the music was a psychotic. People don't even know that his intro music was it was like humming. It was like, whoa. He had some sound effect. He didn't even have a track. I think when he came out of prison and he had Tupac by his side when he fought Frank and all of that, there was a bit of that going on. But
yeah.
originally, a cold feeling when he was walking into the ring. And I think the the weigh-in, and then as he was walking to the ring, that other fight was waiting for him. I think it was all over.
Mm.
You
You know what? It's like when you look on it's funny that you mentioned like Mike Tyson. 'Cause I was speaking to Chris Eubank Senior yesterday, and
Yeah,
he was saying that Mike Tyson is the one that set the bar,
yeah,
right? He set the
100%.
bar, right? Mike Tyson set the bar where you knew, especially like in the 80s, that heavyweights who were coming to fight, you had to be in shape
Yeah,
because you'd see guys who, I mean, it was at the 80s, it was a cocaine era. It was nuts for so many
yeah,
talented fighters who fell by the wayside because of drugs.
yeah, yeah,
When Mike Tyson came out, everybody knew, right, we had to be fit,
yeah,
right? You had to be fit.
yeah,
And You know, and when we flip it now, we're saying, then what is the bar today? The bar today is Tyson Fury, right? The bar which is being set now, who's very inconsistent in fighting regularly, which I think is a damn shame because I think he's very
Yeah,
very
yeah,
talented. But the
yeah,
bar is somebody like Anthony Joshua, who has accomplished a great deal,
yeah,
but has been inexperienced in learning the trade, and now he's starting to learn the trade. The setting the bar is someone like
That's a very good
Deontay.
point.
Yeah,
That was a good
someone like
point.
Deontay Wilder, who says that it only takes one punch. So within the other, if we get 36 minutes of boxing, we've got to wait just for that 2 seconds for him to throw that one big shot. Because in between that, we're not seeing skills being done. And this is no disrespect to Deontay Wilder. I know he's trying to work on skills now, right? And I know that he can box because if you watch his his first fight when he won the world title against Romain Stavern, he actually boxed in that fight,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
right?
Good fight.
Yeah,
Good fight.
it went 12 rounds when he actually boxed. But
Yeah,
apart from that, he's like, I can knock a guy out, so therefore I don't business. I'm just gonna be wailing away. That's not artistic prowess. I wouldn't want to sit down and say, well, let's go study this guy because we're gonna learn something. You
yeah.
can't. So when the bars are being set, and unfortunately, same like with Joe Joyce. With Joe Joyce, there's nothing that I've seen in Joe Joyce that I'm saying why he does this particularly really well, right? I-
Mm,
I'm gonna copy that move. I'm training a heavyweight now. I'm gonna steal that move from Joe. Joe has traded on toughness, and I
mm.
warn people because water can erode rock. So all this like, yeah, I can take it, he can take it, man can hit him. I ain't gonna lie, he was absolutely devastating. The night he beat Joseph Parker, I said, listen, he's the second best heavyweight in the world after Tyson Fury. That's how I looked at it because I said, because Joseph Parker can fight. And
Yeah. Do you know, sorry to Scott, but it's interesting because, and Joseph's got movement as well. But I
mm,
think it's strange. This is how good that Chang is. He's good.
yeah,
He's got some. I think I can't remember who. I would say it's a little bit like Larry Holmes. He's got some sort of he's got a movement. He knows how to. It's timing. Very, very, very. Who manages him?
some Chinese group, some
He's got
Chinese
no. Who's
group.
his American? He's got linked. Isn't is with
Yeah,
Aram? Not Aram, is it?
no, it's not. It's not Bob Ryan. You know what? I don't rightly know.
Is it what's his name? Our man, PBC.
Nah, I've seen him fight on a couple shows. He's been about. I've seen him fight on the Zone show. I've seen him fight like about. But you look on someone like I think Zhang's got a deal now with Frank Warren, I believe.
Do you know
You
what?
know?
I'm not trying to change this, but I've got to say, oh yeah. Firstly, big up Chris Eubank Jr. I've got to give him that, man. Rough on
Yeah, yeah,
double.
yeah,
I,
yeah.
I love it. I just don't. I tell you what, really well done. And I'm so happy for him. I'm so happy for his family, and I'm so happy because you're seeing a bit of a different one now. He's like really pleased that there's a side of him that's come out now that I really like. And he fought really well. Well done. And you can only beat the man that's in front of you. And I did notice, and so as far as I'm concerned, I did think that something was wrong with his legs, his ankles, or something. The other fella, I don't know. He just didn't look right. But
Well, I'm not. You know what? What I'm not going to do, I'm not going to make excuses for Liam Smith
yeah,
because what you done to Eubank in the first fight, I thought that you was going to repeat that. I was terribly wrong.
I didn't think he was going to. Do you know something? I tell you something deep down. I had a feeling Eubanks was going to win the fight, but I didn't know he was going to win it so emphatically. I didn't know he was going to do a complete job. Like the guy was not even there. And I think if that same Liam Smith had turned up that beat him the first fight, I think Eubanks would have still beaten him. I had that feeling because I think Eubanks is that good. I've always thought he's that good. Uh, uh, he is that good.
Okay.
And Billy Joe Saunders is that good. And George Groves is that good. All the men that beat and Liam Smith is that good. But George Groves, George Groves beat him and dealt with him with one hand, 11th and 12th round, you know.
Yep.
You know, yeah, he give him a good fight, and best man does win on the night. And you know, whatever went wrong with Chris the first fight, but what it does, it just sets it all up, doesn't it, for the other stuff later on? You know, if whoever wants to come and fight him now, and I think that's really good.
It certainly does. It certainly does. Vas, we have another guest on as well, so I want you to stay here as well, Vas. Don't go nowhere. Don't go nowhere. Stay right there, Vas. I'm going to bring in Nick Peet, who is from Fight Disciples. Also, he's a contributor to TalkSport. Really good guy. Knows his boxing. He Fight Disciples is a channel which he does with was it Adam Catterall. Two good guys, and like we're just gonna bring him in now because like I want to mix this up a little bit. All right.
Where's Nick?
How's it going, boys?
Hello, how you doing?
I'm good, man. I'm good.
Well, Nick, you see, we bring legends in because we've got Vas Blackwood in, Rory Breaker.
That's right.
Of course, the legend himself.
Yeah,
I've got the wig back there somewhere, but don't worry about that.
Yeah.
There's no need for that. We're not going to bring it in.
All right, then. Oh, sorry. Before we continue, Vas, could you give us that line from the movie, please? You know the line.
No, I'll do it later on because you can't. We can't because it might be like it's still the watershed hour. Can't be swearing yet.
What are you talking about?
What this line the line from Rory Breaker?
Yeah, Rory Breaker.
Which one though?
Come on, you're joking, man.
The one about the milk?
Yes, man.
All right, the milk. Well, if the milk turns out to be sour, Spencer, I'm not the type of pussy to drink it. Do you get me? And then I look into the camera. And there's some other ones as well, but we can't say them yet. But listen, wait. Before Nick, I just want to say this, right? Another thing I've got to say as well, because I've just bigged up Chris Eubank Jr. I've got to big up this one there because I saw it today and I really enjoyed it. Frank Warren did an interview with what's his name from the American fella. It's just come out. What's the guy from America, the African American chap?
Oh, Radio Raheem.
Radio Raheem.
Yeah.
Yep.
Frank about his how he started, because Frank's from Islington and I live in Camden, and it's one of the best interviews. Frank Warren. It was brilliant. You've got to watch it. It's just come out today. It's absolutely brilliant, right? And it tells you all about where he grew up in council flat, this, that, and the other, and this whole background. And I just thought it was really good. Just wanted to say that. Well done, Frank Warren, for doing that. He did say something which I found a little bit funny. He was saying something about where he grew up and that, you know, when he was growing up, there wasn't that many blacks around that area. And I was thinking, Islington, how fucking old are you, Frank? I was brought up in Borough of Camden, right? And you know what I mean? I was in the 60s, so Frank, come on. They might not have been on that estate though, because I think they were a little bit more exclusive, weren't they, on estates to an extent, weren't they? They were a little bit back then. But what he was saying, but I think it was a little bit like, yeah, but anyway, it was good. I mean, that was just me picking a point, but he is very good. Very, very good. I really enjoyed it. I mean, you know, you get them with Eddie Hearn and you do get them with the chap there from Boxer, that promoted there. But this was really good because you can't take it from Frank Warren. He really is. He really is. He knows it, you know. He knows.
Frank has been around since the day, man. Frank started all this. Before the border control, before it was all licensed boxing, Frank was doing it in underground clubs and everything else. You know, he's proper East End boy, and he's so. And people forget that, you know, and people have a lot of conversation around media and young fans coming in are a bit like, you know, Barry left it and Eddie's kind of come through. Why won't Frank leave it to his sons to go forward? And don't get me wrong, George and Francis and all the sons, they all work on the business and they're all as passionate. But none of them are as passionate as Frank. He may be the oldest guy at the table, but I tell you what, he loves this game like no man in this country, I'm telling you.
Yeah. And you know what he said as well in the interview, which was really brilliant when he said he started to talk about the boxing, which I never knew. Lenny McLean is his cousin. He's related to Lenny McLean. And he started with Lenny and the bare knuckle fighting. and those 3 trilogies with Pretty Boy Short. That's right.
Yeah.
And he tells the whole story. And
then sure.
He said to Raheem, you know the film Lock, Stock and Two Smoking Barrels, and he said it, and I just laughed to myself because I said, "There we go." And then he just went into it, and I just thought, what a diamond! You know, you can't take anything from that man. And then he talked about ITV, you know, getting it away from the mafia, Mickey Duff, Astaire, and all of this, that, and the other. And I know it wasn't that long ago in the 80s. You know what I mean, Spence? Because I mean, even Spence, was you with was you under
Frank Warren Management?
Yeah. And he was talking about the 80s, you know, when it first started, when he got it on ITV Live, and he said he was getting a bit of grief then because what they used to do it like Wednesday the fight, and then repeat the fight on TV because they were worried about people not turning up for the fight to watch the fight because if it was live and all this rubbish. And he said, but they were getting a dip. You were getting a little bit of money off that, little bit of money off that, little bit of money off that, and a repeat of the fight. Just the way he broke it down, it's a brilliant interview. Absolutely brilliant.
Yeah, well, to Frank Warren's credit, right? Because like me and Vas are very close to Lloyd Hannigan, right?
Yeah.
It was through Lloyd Hannigan how I met Vas.
Yeah.
Right? Because like we on a Friday night, we'd all go raving together. And we'd go down to West End, what was it? Corks. It was Corks Wine Bar. We would all these we'd go down there. See, Vas, you see? You have to think that Vas is thinking.
No. What was the other one? The one we used to go. The one downstairs on. Is it on Frith Street? Which was the one?
That's that guy Steve that owns that. You know.
Yeah, what's it called? That's where we. Yeah.
Anyway, that's a long time ago, bro. We'll talk about them days. You know what I mean?
Reminiscent, man. I love it.
Man's trying to get me into trouble, Nick. Right?
Yeah, exactly.
Long time ago, bro. Long time ago. But if we think about like back in those days, like Frank Warren, you know what his first world title was, Nick? Frank Warren's first world title, he brought over Donald Curry to fight Colin Jones. Wow. That was his first world title fight. Mad, right?
That's insane.
Right. And it was sold out to the rafters.
Of course it was.
Yeah, that was Frank Warren's first world title fight. And I remember I was in primary school, but I've been a boxing fan since coming out of my mom's stomach. So it's like, I remember watching that fight because that was actually on a Sunday night, right? It was on a Sunday night. And I remember the next day going into school and everybody talking about the fight and Donald Curry and how sharp he was. And then Frank Warren brought Lloyd Hannigan and Sylvester Mitty to fight for the European, British, and Commonwealth Championship. So he took that fight, he went on purse bids, and he took it away from the cartel. So the cartel was Jarvis Astaire, Mickey Duff, and Mike Barrett. And he took that fight away from him because Lloyd Hannigan was a European champion. Lloyd Hannigan went out to to Italy and knocks out Gianfranco Rossi. He bangs him out vicious as well. If you go, please, Nick, just go and watch this. When I talk about Lloyd Hannigan, especially then, he was like, I don't care. He was that guy. I'm gonna bust him up. And right, the way he knocks out Rossi, he knocks him out in 2 rounds. The way he knocks him out, he throws a right hand on him, and it was like bap, and he knocks him through the ropes, and he's like his body's bent over the bottom rope. Lloyd Hannigan was the real deal. So Lloyd Hannigan comes back and he fights Sylvester Mitty. The story between him and Sylvester Mitty was Mitty was a very good fighter. Mitty was like Chris Eubank before Chris Eubank because he's very speaky-spokey. He was like, and so when I want to go and fight, and the reason why I'm fighting, he was that guy. So when they met, Mitty was the British and Commonwealth champion. Lloyd Hannigan was a European champion. He was Southern Era champion, and then Lloyd ends up fighting, goes up in the rankings, but he ends up going to Italy, and he knocks out Rossi. And the mad thing about this is, like, 3 years after, Rossi moves up to junior middleweight and becomes WBC junior middleweight champion. So I'm showing you just the levels of what Lloyd Hannigan was. But he fights Sylvester Mitty, and that was the first time in boxing history that we had 2 West Indians who represented Great Britain fighting for a European title. And Frank Warren was the man that promoted that. I just want to drop that one out there. So, you know what I mean? So, off of that, it's Black History Month next month. So, I think that should be mentioned on TNT that Frank Warren actually pioneered a very, very big move. That was a massive move. But yeah. Lloyd Hannigan beat up Sylvester Mitty badly in there. I remember Lloyd was saying, like, yeah, I didn't want to knock him out. I just want to punish him. Right? So it's like, one of those things. But on to the fight, Nick. Our producer just asked the question, like, yes, was it yesterday's fight? Was Valentina robbed?
Oh, in the UFC over in Vegas.
Well, man. Everybody's not touching it because we know that you're fight disciples. You touch on everything. So, yeah.
Of course, yeah. We covered a bit of everything, of course, yeah. But, yeah, Valentina Shevchenko, the former UFC flyweight champion, went back to win her belt back against Alexa Grasso, who beat her in March, took the belt away from her. They rematched last night in Las Vegas. It was Mexican Independence Day weekend. So, as we know, usually around this date, September 16th, Canelo Alvarez fights in Las Vegas. But because UFC is such a big thing, MMA is growing so fast in Mexico especially, he kind of got bumped. His Charlo fight got moved back. The Grasso fight took place instead. So they had the first lady of Mexican fighting defending her belt. But I tell you what, one of the judges scored a 10-8 round in the fifth and final round, which swung a split decision to a draw, which meant that the Mexican champion kept hold of the belt. It's very rare you get dodgy scorecards in MMA compared to boxing. We see it in boxing a lot. We know why. It's very political. There's a lot of brown envelopes going on, and there's a lot of BS under the table. UFC is kind of different because it's one singer, one song. It's a dictatorship. So you tend to see quality scoring more often. Plus, there's a unified scoring system in the sport of mixed martial arts that every state, every referee, every judge works off the same, if you like, 10 commandments written in stone. This is how you win a fight. This is how you lose a fight. So it's rare we get big, bad decisions. But I tell you what, one of those judges put in a 10-8 scorecard for the last round. It wasn't a 10-8 scorecard. It was a 10-9. It certainly wasn't a 10-8. That swung in favor of the Mexican by route of a draw, and she kept hold of her belt. But you know what? Again, the beauty of that sport is the beauty of the UFC. Dana White will probably just go, right, do it again. And they'll go straight in for a third and final fight, you know.
Do you know what the UFC is like? The UFC is like 1800s boxing, right? That there weren't enough guys to go around. And if you're good enough, then you are going to fight who is good, right? Then that's how it was. And that is what the UFC is like. And also, female boxing is very, very like that because there ain't enough to go around. There ain't enough people to sit down and say, I'll sit and wait a little bit before you get a bit jaded. Then I'll fight you and I'll make a couple easy defenses and buy a new house and a new Lamborghini. No. There's none of that foolishness. If you want to fight, you fight.
Yeah.
And that is it. And then you have to go and fight. But the main topic of the night was actually Zhang and Joyce. And I really wanted to hear your opinion because I do realize that you are a very, very opinionated man, Nick. I've heard what Frank Warren had to say about you. That's another story for another day. But
listen, yes, I did. If you're a boxing journalist in this country and Frank and Eddie and all of them haven't spoken shit about you at least half a dozen times, if you haven't had a couple of lawyers' letters come through your door for days in court, then you're not doing your job properly. Because you've got to be asking questions about these guys, man. Keep on your toes. I've got a great relationship with Frank, with Eddie, with all the promoters that have been around for a long time. Because I've been in this game this is my 25th year covering professional boxing in the UK.
Wow.
And I've loved every second of it. I've spent a couple of years in America covering UFC, but I always covered boxing. And yeah, it's a journey, man. And I think it's the job of myself and other people who work for national broadcasters as well. And to kind of, demand the best of this sport. I love boxing. It's in my heart. It's always been my number one passion outside of my family. And I want the best for boxing. I'm lucky that I cover UFC as well. And it's like the Champions League of MMA, and we get it regularly. And I know how good boxing can be. When you go to Vegas for a heavyweight title fight, for instance, Fury versus Wilder 2 or 3, there's nothing quite like it. Oh, maybe in UFC, Conor McGregor fight nights when he fights Khabib, very special as well. But you guys know when you go to a big fight, the atmosphere is like no other sporting event. Nothing
it's
else
ridiculous.
can happen in a split second, and things can change 180, like in a big fight when you get a big knockdown. Fury versus Wilder. I'm glad I mentioned that one, but that just springs to mind most recently because it was just such an absolute roller coaster of a fight. The second and the third fights, absolutely incredible. And no other sporting event. And I've been to, World Cups. I've been to Olympic Games. I've been to major tournaments across other sports. Nothing comes close to a big fight night, a big world title fight. And boxing could do that more regularly. We could deliver that once a month. Easy. The talent's there. But
Okay.
There's so many politics. There's
how
so much
how do we do it, Nick? How do we do it? You say
we bin the belts. We bin the belts. I would get rid of all of these bullshit belts, the WBC, WBA, IBF, get rid of them all. They're only here because people want to, people in, set these companies up, the Blazer Brigade, I like to call them. They're just about taking 3% off the fighters. The television networks have poured fuel on that by saying, well, if we're doing a live show on Saturday night, we need a world title fight. So suddenly people start pulling world title fights out. Last weekend, there was a Commonwealth silver championship fight in the UK. What's a Commonwealth silver belt? A silver Commonwealth belt took place. So the border control are getting at it as well. It drives me insane. There should be, for our fighters from this country, central or southern area, English, British, Commonwealth, European, and then one world title. And I know a lot of fans will say to me, and a lot of promoters have said to me, yeah, but you're taking money out of people's pockets. The sport won't be as big. Nah, man, I'm not having that. When I grew up, I was lucky enough to spend some time with a Liverpool boxer called Alan Rudkin. Now, Alan Rudkin lived in a day when there was one world title.
Alan Rudkin
he was
could
a
have it,
superstar. And he was British, Commonwealth, European champion. He had some of the greatest battles of the 60s. And when the Beatles were making headlines in the music business, Alan Rudkin was like Liverpool's big world title contender. He fought for three times he fought for a world title, all away from home. Two of those fights were absolutely legendary fights. One of those fights at the back end of his career. He was on This Is Your Life. He had old Bill Shankly on there. He was a superstar when he first turned pro. He moved to London. Ronnie and Reggie Cray used to pay for his training camps. His backstory was just incredible, but he was a superstar. It can be done. You don't need alphabet world title belts. 4 or 5 world champions in each weight division. And we wonder why it's only us that are bang into boxing that stick with it. Loads of my mates who are football fans will go to me, world title fight on TNT this weekend. Is it a proper world title though? That's their conversation now. That shouldn't be the way. A world title should be a world title. One weight, one world champion, each weight division. That's how we saw boxing out. And then we just have eliminators.
Yeah, but I hear that. But unfortunately, with TV networks, they will say, well, we want a world title fight. So this is how it goes. And I hear what you're saying. I remember, I'm going to go back. Well, I remember what year it was. It was 2005, right? And I was at dinner and I was speaking to Chris Eubank Sr. And he comes to me and he goes, and like I was saying now, do you think like it's bad how many world titles there are now? And he goes, no. What are you talking about? This is good because who knew the WBO before I got it? I got it and I made it something. He didn't care. He was saying like you get it, and as long as you're good enough, you can build it into something, which I totally get. But for the authenticity and the integrity of the sport, I grew up around memorizing the Ring magazine, Boxing Illustrated, on a Friday. When a Thursday, it was a boxing news on a Friday, and it was religiously like I'd get it early in the morning. I'd pick it up at like 6:30 in the morning, and I'd go home and I'd sit on the toilet and I'd read it from back to front to back. And was it Eric Armett would have a section about the old timers, and I'd just study these old timers. I'd study it. I didn't do no schoolwork. I'd go to school with it. No one, the teachers is like, don't worry about it. You just go on and do you're not bothering no one, right? And that's what I would do. So when you look at that, and it was the time when you think 8 world champions, 8 divisions. That was it. 1 world title per weight. Henry Armstrong, the legend in the 40s, picked up 3 of them and held them simultaneously at same time. That's one of the greatest fights to ever live. And he should have had it 4 times because he did beat Ceferino, but they gave it a draw. That was for the middleweight title, and actually it was kind of funny because they made it over 10 rounds. But that's another story for another day. I can rant on about history. So I totally get your passion, Nick, because as much as it's like I'm saying, it's going to be very difficult to happen, but I'd love for that to happen. To say, right, you want to be the daddy, then you're the daddy. In the old days when guys were world champions, they were the daddy. You know what I mean? They were the daddy. You know what I mean? Marvin Hagler had 50 pro freaking fights before he fought for a world title.
Yeah.
Can you believe that? 50.
Yeah, man.
So like I said, but it's TV networks that have spoiled it because it's all about ratings and everything else, which I get. But what I am saying is this: if you're a world champion, and like, let's just go for 4 right now. Let's forget about the other spurious ones that we got. Let's go for the 4. Right? So your WBC, IBF, WBO, and WBA champion. I think that if you win those crowns, there should be something written in contract that you have to fight one of the other champions within 18 months of you winning that belt.
Of course. But this is the crazy thing. Let's say, for instance, Vas is a world title contender. No problem. He's ranked by WBC, IBF, WBO. They've all got him in different spots in the rankings. Then Vas gets a WBO world title fight, knocks the guy out in the first round. Vas, you're the WBO champion of the world. What happens the next day? The WBC, the IBF, the WBA they omit him from their rankings. They take him out. He no longer exists in those eyes. That's why the sport's messed up. It's insane. How can we ever force this to happen? Because that's what we want. We want unification fights. And as you say, right now the women are knocking out the park because of the lack of depth. And with all due respect, probably the lack of money in there as well. So you can make super fights with Katie Taylor and Serrano and everything else because there's only a limited amount of money on the table being available to the girls right now. So it's like, right, okay, super fights, and we're getting unifications every other month with the girls, and it's fantastic. The sport's booming, and long may it continue. But the men need to take a leaf out of that book. And thankfully now we're seeing bigger fights. I think there's more pressure now on fighters to make bigger fights. And we're seeing people like Terence Crawford go, you know what? I don't care who my promoter is. I don't care who my manager is. I'll cut ties with everyone if it just gets me him because I want that fight on my legacy. And he forced that Errol Spence fight to happen by getting rid of Top Rank and going, okay, I'll sell my soul to the devil. I just want you to prove a point, which he obviously did. But not everyone's going to do that. And then you lead by example. So young fighters who might win a world title, you look up and you go, wait a minute, what's the heavyweight champion of the world doing? Well, he's ducking and diving this, and the WBC are going, yeah, we're not going to force a mandatory on you, mate. You go and fight an MMA fighter with 0 boxing matches. Cool. No problem. I'll tell you what we'll do, though. The WBC belt won't be on the line, but we'll give you this WBC Riyadh belt. Oh, and by the way, we need 3% for that kid. It's insane. It's insane.
But tell me something, because I've heard you've been very vocal about this Ngannou Tyson Fury fight, right? Are you going to watch it?
Do you know why I'm going to watch it? Because of Francis Ngannou's story is incredible. The dude grew up in Cameroon, was thrown into a sand mine, given a spade and going, that's your life, kid. That's your life, shoveling sand. And he had a dream to get out of there. And he smuggled himself out to the country. He tries numerous times to cross over into Europe. He finally gets into France. He ends up living in a multi-story car park. He's knocking on the doors of gyms. Listen, I'm a big 6.5-foot giant monster from Africa. I want to be heavyweight champion of the world. An MMA gym finally lets him in, come and train in here, then be a sparring partner. They turn him around. They take him to Vegas. They get him in the UFC. He becomes UFC champion of the world. He's earned more money than he's ever dreamt of. And then the UFC go, there's the most money we've ever offered a heavyweight. And he goes, nah, this is not my dream. My dream is to be the boxing champion. I'm walking away from it. And he walks away to chase his dream. So, yeah, I'll watch it because I want to see how this Francis Ngannou fairy tale, ridiculous Hollywood movie script plays out. Unfortunately, I watched Floyd Mayweather take apart Conor McGregor, so I kind of know what's coming. But listen, from Francis's point of view, I just want to see how his story plays out.
I just think Tyson Nganou's won anyway. He's getting $8 million for the fight, right?
How much?
$8 million. He's won. 8. He's won, mate.
8 million.
Yep, his highest ever purse in UFC was $650,000.
How much is Tyson Fury getting?
A bag of money.
Bingo, Vas. I reckon upwards of 40.
Right. Okay. Well, I've got to say it's because I'm a great fan of Tyson Fury's, right? Because I was a boxing fan. But you've just mentioned this gentleman here who's sorry, how do you pronounce his name?
Ngannou.
Francis
Ngannou. Ngannou. Okay. Well, the problem we've got here now, we're getting slightly political now, right? Is that really and truly no one should be fighting in Saudi Arabia due to their human rights atrocities. And what they're doing at the moment presently, right, is covering it all up by these big sporting events. And it's going to get worse. And it's a problem because if he came from such a hard background and really knew himself, he wouldn't be doing it. But it's all about money. I'm not personally going to watch the fight because I'm not. Saudi Arabia has terrible human rights, right? If you knew and read into it, you go to Amnesty and you go and look into it recently, right? What they've just done to some Ethiopians recently, right? I'm not supporting any of that rubbish because I know what they're doing, right? I gave Frank his praises. I gave Tyson their praises. This other champion, they're going out, they're going to fight. But it's a washover. And they're building cities all the time. And the people that go there work. The women that are there, I mean, I've got 2 daughters, and women get, not the women within the religious aspect of it. I'm talking about the women that find themselves in amongst the metropolis, you know, a lot of the working girls, you know, making a lot of money, right? And then obviously it's a bit of a, not Sin City, but it's a bit of a mess. And I mean, considering if you think about Las Vegas and how Las Vegas started and bringing on fights, I can't, being a little bit Afrocentric to a certain degree, I have to look at what's going on there. It's not just as plain cut as that. There's a little bit more to it. And they're opening up, this fight is opening this big festival that they're having out there, but it's a real washover. They're hiding the fact.
In saying that, okay,
slavery right? Being committed there in
every country on the face of the planet, and we have 197, right? Every country has an atrocity behind it. Every country. You know what I mean? The mere fact that your name is Vas Blackwood isn't meant to be Blackwood. You do realize that, right? The mere fact that my name is Spencer Fearon, come on, let's be real. Let's call it as it is. So every country has it. And what, more atrocious than when other countries are bombing other countries? Come on, man. So me sitting down to say, well, I'm just pointing fingers solely at the Saudis? No, I can't do that. Human rights issues are human rights issues. For me to put it down to one particular place, and everybody was doing this. I remember lots of people were doing this at the time of the World Cup, were saying oh, how terrible it was and blah, blah, blah. But you go speak to them, how they were treated and all the rest of it. And you say it could be a massive whitewash of what they're trying to do and all the rest of it. But what I have seen is America has imposed or tried to impose certain stipulations in certain African countries, yeah? They have never dreamed of trying to bring that agenda out to Saudi Arabia. Then why is that? Because they know there's an old saying in Jamaica, I'm going to teach you some patois now, Nick, that Doppy knows who to frighten. A ghost knows who to frighten, right? Mm-hmm. So they know who you can play it with from who you can't play it with. So as much as when people are jumping on talking about, and I get what you're saying, how terrible and the atrocities of Saudi Arabia and every country has atrocities behind it. Not one country on the face of the planet Earth hasn't got atrocities behind it. But what I am saying is right now, if it is that they are trying to whitewash or anything else, I'm saying that country is giving Francis Ngannou, what's that, 13 times the payday that he's ever got in his life. That country is. Right? Exactly just like when Ali fought And we have to big up the Rumble in Jungle 2. You know, there's a theater production now, the Rumble in Jungle 2. I'm gonna go see it this week. I'm gonna get you tickets, Nick, because I know that you'll enjoy it. I'm definitely gonna get you, Vas.
I've never even heard of that. That'd be amazing.
Yeah, the Rumble in the Jungle 2 is down in London. It is a reenactment of Ali versus George Foreman, October of 1974, and you go there as to watch it, but you are actually a spectator. You get to go around into the dressing room to see when Ali's getting ready. You go, it's really, really good. You get the president of Congo, Zaire, but it's now Congo. Sisi Sekou Mobutu, who walks around in his regalia with his bodyguards. You get to see the whole spectacle. You get to see how the press were. You get to see the training camps. It's really, really cool. So I'm looking, like, anyone listens on Eventbrite right now, but I've got tickets. I'm gonna send you over some tickets, you two, to go and watch it. So, but Sisi Sekou Mobutu at the time when he put up $10 million for Ali and George Foreman. Yeah. Unheard of money, unprecedented money, right? The war crimes and everything else behind that man was ridiculous, right? How did he get into power? Patrick Lumumba, who was a Pan-Africanist and who was trying to reshape Africa, they said, "Nah, we don't want this, mate. You got to go." And then the CIA brought in Sisi Mobutu. They killed him. So it is what it is. Every country, every nation, right, of different races and different faces has got a backstory to it, right? And I get it, and I feel your stance as well, Vas. 100%, I feel your stance, but I'm not going to be hypocritical. Do you know what I mean? Because the country that I live in, Great Britain, that I love, but I know the atrocities that this country's done.
Yep.
Right? I can't.
Yeah, but my parents came here with a British passport and they got a mortgage at 15 grand when they 1959, and here I am. So, and my dad worked 40 years in the post office. My mum did. She just recently stopped working in nursing homes. But what I'm saying is that that's nothing compared to what I'm dealing with. Yeah, I'm dealing with something. I mean, I am, a member of Amnesty, and I follow Amnesty and what's going on. I'm not having a bar of it. And that's all I've said. And that's just the way I see it. You can say anything about my name, my first name, second name, all of that. But I know I've got a house in Jamaica. I don't seem to have that much of a problem there with anything and anyone telling me what to do. Or I see how people don't have the social security in Jamaica. So it takes a village to raise a child. We try to support each other.
You saying that? Have you been to Saudi Arabia?
No, I don't need to go to Saudi. I wouldn't.
Wait.
I'll go on the record and tell you that you won't see me in Saudi Arabia.
Well, okay, but maybe if you was invited and you to see how things work, maybe you can have a different opinion.
Even if they offer me, if they said to me, right, they hear this and they say, "All right, come out there. We'll give you £1 million to come out there." I swear I will not go, because it's just the way I roll, and I don't need to go. I go like the West Indies. I'm a member. I've got a Jamaican passport. I'm a member of CARICOM. I'm a Jamaican citizen. I'm British as well. So, and then there's places in Africa I will go to. I mean, trust me, when it comes down to, say, if I get involved in the whole historical thing, there's still a lot of unanswered questions, right? Even with the way Africa is structured, and we're looking at right from the north, working it down, and even where Berbers, Arabs, and just the whole thing. It's not very. It's. I mean, I'm not going to get too deep into it, but I'm dealing with the atrocities and where these people that built these skyscrapers, where they live, how they live, how they're treated, just to get some shekels to send back to their families, wherever they're sending them back to. I don't think that's quite right. And my parents didn't have to suffer like that when they came to England. They really got on with it, and we got treated very fairly here in this country. So if I can sit in the comfort of this house that I'm sitting in here, in Highgate, right, and let off on Saudi Arabia, right, I'm in a democracy and I can let off. And I've not said nothing negative, because I know and they know the atrocities, because that's not right. You can't do that. You can't do that. You can't do it, and you've got to look into it. I don't think you really have, but it's not very good. But what's his name's gone out there to play football, and he's getting a lot of money. How much millions he's getting a week? It's all good. And then because he's got a lot of fan base and followers, people get into it. Next thing you know, they'll have a Premier League out there. Football will be running out there. It's all good through the sport, which is good. But people are really suffering, man. I can't really think that's very fair.
Well, people suffer all around the world. But let me tell you this now. If they offer me a ticket, I'm going. And that's that. Right?
Well, you've been there a few times, haven't you?
Yeah, of course I've been Saudi. I've been Saudi lots of times. But I'm saying if they offer me a ticket, I'm going. I'm going to. I'm a boxing fan. Period.
Yeah, it's not for me. It's not for me.
Right. Okay, and that's the thing about it, Vas, and I respect you for that. I respect you for that. But I'm going to tell you again, I'm going, and that's that.
Right? I'm looking forward to people that go. I know loads of people that go right to Saudi Arabia. I know a lot of people go there. They really love it. They really love it. Yeah?
Because that's what I'm trying to say to you. You be going there as a tourist, right? Your experience is going to be totally different. It's going to be totally different. Yeah. So, like I said, right? This is every country has atrocities. Every country has atrocities against it. So for me, just like I'm on some high horse to say about what's happening in Saudi and like I'm going to forget what's happening in the Ukraine. Do you know what I mean? And then even the plight of the Ukraine, like I said, oh, that's terrible. But am I also going to forget what happened? What was just happening in Ireland the other day? Nah. You know what I mean? But anyway, Babatunde Ajayi is just saying a big up to my mate Nick, right? Big up Babatunde Ajayi. Yeah, I mean, who's studying right now because he's in camp with Anthony Yarde. Anthony Yarde's fighting next week Saturday. They had
next week Saturday.
Ricky Summers has pulled out. I don't know what's happened to him, like injured or all the rest of it. Or so they're getting a replacement. They are getting a replacement in for him. And so, yeah, you go watch Anthony Yarde go do his thing next week. But before you get off, Nick, I want to hear your opinion on Zhang and Joyce.
I was really disappointed with Joe's performance in the first fight. I was out in Vegas during the camp. I spent best part of a full day with Joe. We did some filming for an interview with TNT Sports, and then the crew and everybody else went back to the hotel, and I spoke to Joe and his team and said, can I come back because I'm like you, Spencer, man. I love this game. So I was like, can I come back, watch you do some work with Ismail Salas, just watch you in the gym, like no cameras, no nothing, just seeing how your day by day ticks along, chatting with his manager and everything. And Joe's a diamond. Joe's like, of course, man, yeah, of course. And I went back and I watched them do one-on-one with Ismail and listen to the conversations they were having, the positive reinforcements and just some bag work and nothing special, just a general evening in the gym ticking over. And what I seen with Joe and what I heard, I was super confident going into that Zhang fight. I thought, yeah, man, this has got Joyce written all over it. You know, Zhang's a big name in the sport. He's got a solid record. This is going to be a great win for Joe, and this will torpedo him forward. And on the night when he just turned up, like my first shock, like everybody else, was on the scales when he come in so light. And I was like, hey, Joyce is going to dance. Okay, this is going to be interesting. And then he didn't get in there. He was typical Joyce. He was big. He was moving forward, but he didn't have no size behind him. His lack of head movement was really alarming. And for someone of Joe's experience, I know he's only had 15, 16 professional fights, but I mean his amateur experience as an Olympic silver medal, everything else. Joe's been around, man. Joe knows this game inside and out. But for his lack of movement relating to a southpaw opponent was quite alarming. You know, Zhang literally couldn't miss with that right jab, literally could not miss. And then he was starting to throw backhand leads off the southpaw as well. And I was thinking, did Joe, because I was as guilty as anybody. Going into that fight, I was like, I don't care what happens in this heavyweight division. I want to see Joyce fight Deontay Wilder. I want to see the best chin in boxing take on the biggest puncher in boxing. I don't give a damn about belts. I want to see what the hell's going to happen with the immovable object and Deontay Wilder's power. And I don't know whether Joe maybe kind of subconsciously absorbed the noise that everyone was. No one can knock out Joe Joyce. His chin's made of iron. And maybe that's the lack of head movement or whatever it was. But yeah, I was so disappointed with Joe's performance. For me, he can only improve on that. He can only do better than that. And for me, that just means being busier, getting your head off that center line, tons of southpaw sparring to get your timing right, and let Zhang. I think Zhang arrived in London yesterday. Man, the guy's 6'9" or whatever he is, but he probably thinks he's 8'12" now, because he believes he's going to do exactly the same thing again. And it's up to Joe to get that head off the center line and really make him feel that power.
Yeah, but when you're saying get the head of the center line, it's easier said than done, because Joe, he's very robotic. You do realize that, right? And it's like, I was saying to Vas earlier, like Joe Joyce was a man that was trading on toughness. And I ain't gonna lie, I was gassed with it as well. He dealt with Daniel Dubois, but in a fight that he was actually losing on points. I watched that fight again last week, and he was slightly behind on points on two of the three judges' scorecards. And I think, like, I'm not even gonna argue with that, right? It was one of them ones, but I could see that. But my major thing is this: Walter County Road Rock. When somebody's trading on toughness and was buying into this, you can't hurt this guy, and his skull density is thicker than everybody else's, and blah. Listen, Water Rolls Rock. So you carry on getting in a line of fire, and not only that, but I have seen fights where Joe Joyce has been hurt. Brian Jennings hurt him with a body shot. Do you remember that? Properly hurt him with a body shot. So I've seen him get hurt, but I can't fool you and say, like, I wasn't mightily impressed with the way that he dealt with Joseph Parker, because Dylan White couldn't do that to Joseph Parker, right? Anthony Joshua couldn't do that to Joseph Parker. And here was a guy that just marched right through him. I was like, nah, Joe Joyce is the second best heavyweight in the world. Then I'm saying, right, we've seen a build up for the fight, and who's a young kid, little Watson, right? Who works for Joe Joyce. It was like, I said, I've done an interview, and I said, and like, he phones me up, and we're really good mates. I helped that kid out when he was coming through. I got him work experience when I was at Sky, and he was like, no, but I can't believe that you said that about Joe, because you don't know if he's all right. And I said, you're just young. I mean, I've been in this game a long while, man. You know what I mean? The inside boxing, it's like 45 years now, you know, it's a long time. I just look young, right? You know the rules, black don't crack. Some of us said it. That's another story for another day. Right, but I'm saying to you, like, so I'm watching. I know you want to laugh, Nick. I know you want to laugh, but you think, is that a bit racist? No, laugh. You're all right. You're with the brothers. Come on, laugh. Right. So,
right. It's from Liverpool. It's from Liverpool. It's right. More black than you.
Exactly. Right. So I'm there, and I'm saying to myself, in the build-up of the fight, Joe was more interested in speaking about Anthony Joshua than dealing with what was in hand or what was up front. You know what I mean? And that was, and they were saying, no, but the interviews just put it on him, and they said, because they're waiting for a soundbite. I know disrespect. Joe Joyce, he's not that he's boring. He's just like, he's reclusive. He's for himself. And I'd like to see Joe come out of himself a little bit more. You know what I mean? I like to see him, because here is a man, he's actually tricking us, because he's more athletic than how he fights. Because you see him do that, what's that Caballero kind of force? I've been in the gym where you can jump and fly around in the air. I'm saying, brother, go do that on a fight night. Go show us that lateral movement. Show us that. But you're so like back in the day, and because you're from Islington, Vas, do you remember
Camden?
Yeah, right. Who was his name? Henry. There was a guy, Sutton Henry. No. And Joe Joyce, he was from Islington Boxing Club. He's a heavyweight. Okay. And Joe Joyce is exactly the same. Chris Henry. Joe Joyce is exactly the same as him. This we're going back in, they were like 1989. He was like London ABA champion. He was like here, just like Joe Joyce, and like nothing, no frills about him. But everything was like workman-like, and he would just pound you down. And Joe Joyce is exactly like him. I think Joe Joyce needs to add a little sizzle to his steak, because you can't beat Zhang by doing the same things that you did the last time out, thinking that you're going to get a different result. And Zhang was absolutely up for the fight knowing, because Zhang was saying, listen, I know when I'm fighting away from home, and I can't say Chinese power and it means anything because it don't mean shit, right? And I'm gonna go into a fight on someone else's home ground and not stamp authority. And that's what he did. He went out and he stamped authority because from when he was there, he was always looking for the backhand, left hand power shot. He was looking for it, pour away, then throw it down straight down the middle. And we saw Joe get visibly hurt from the second round.
Yeah.
When you're saying, and I hear what you're saying, Nick, if Joe employs head movement, Joe's never employed head movement. Joe gets, he's easy to hit. Let's be real. He's easy to hit. Like what Ali said about Joe Frazier. He gets offended if you don't hit him. Right? That's his style of fighting. Right? Now, but what I can see him doing is like if he holds his hands up tight and marches forward and throws his shots and comes off on he needs to administer a double jab. And because Zhang is a southpaw, and I've seen this happen. I spoke to Uli Harrison earlier today. And Uli Harrison was saying to me, like, it's a tricky fight for him, but if he's mentally right, he can pull this off. And I think it's all down to the mentals because after the loss, his team was saying, don't worry, we're going to get a rematch and we're going to do Zhang. Zhang isn't coming here to muck around because Zhang knows when he got jobbed against Hrgovic, and he was jobbed against Hrgovic, he won that fight as far as I'm concerned. I don't know how you saw it, Nick, but I know you're a sensible man, so I think that you believe the same thing that I'm saying. So if he goes into this fight now, right, Joe Joyce, he has to administer a double jab right hand from the get-go to show his opponent, listen, I'm here, and I'm a tough guy, and I'm going to go through it. The reason why you got clipped up is because you had no head movement, but you got kind of a blockhead kind of style of fighting anyway. So I think if you go with a tight guard, I think they could actually pull this off. Because if you can't, it's going to be sacrilege because we don't know where he's going to go from here. That's my.
He's 37, so there's nowhere to go from here because there's no world title fight if he doesn't get through Zhang, and that's the only option. So that's why they couldn't go anywhere else. They had to do the straight rematch. The problem is, has he made the changes in camp to come into this fight and have the confidence? Now look at Zhang. Zhang's on this unbeaten run, goes and fights Hrgovic on a matchroom show out in Saudi Arabia. Got done on the scorecard, should have won that fight. Has the pain of defeat, and then you go, right, there's an opportunity to come over to Britain, fight Joe Joyce now. And he's motivated to go, well, I ain't losing again. That ain't happening to me again. I'm going to be switched on. And I think that was the best version of Zhang we've ever seen against a sloppy version of Joe Joyce. If Joe switched on, I'm like you. I believe Joe can win this fight. I believe Joe will win this fight on points. But I can just as easily see exactly the same thing happen again. Exactly the same thing. Because he can't, as you say, can't change his fundamentals. For me, the most alarming thing was the lack of southpaw awareness. Like just the lack of movement. Zhang's a big guy. And okay, he's relatively fast. He's got faster hands than Joe Joyce, most heavyweights have. But he was just snapping that jab out. Yeah. And Joe just ate it every single time. He couldn't miss with it. Zhang must have thought he'd won the lottery. It was just like, boom, he's right there. Boom, this is easy. Boom, boom, bang. Left hand. And it was just like, Joe, man, come on. You've got to have seen this style before. You knew you were fighting a southpaw. That was the weird thing for me. And as I say, maybe it was because he was like, I'm Joe Joyce. I'm the juggernaut. Hit me as much as you like. Eventually, you're going to get tired punching me in the face and I'll catch you. And it caught up with him, as you say, caught up with him.
So,
sorry, I just wanted to say that I'm going to say I think Joe's going to come with a new plan, and I believe he will win.
I hope so.
I'm saying Joyce.
That was my last question. Right, was like who have you got? And you just took it out of my mouth. So Vas Blackwood is going for Joe Joyce. Nick, who are you going for? And how do you call it? Who are you going for?
I'm going Joe Joyce on points. I don't think it's going to be an easy fight again. I think he's going to have to dig deep again. He might even get cut again. But at some point, I believe he's going to be able to turn the volume up, just like he did against Daniel Dubois, and push Zhang onto the back foot and break his heart a little bit. And I think he'll get it on a points decision.
I say Joyce 10th or 11th.
Oh, okay. Yes, Baz. Yes,
he's gonna stop him.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'm going for Joe Joyce on points. I don't think they'll take, even though he said he hasn't got anywhere to go, which I agree with you. But I believe that I've got Joe Joyce, because Zhang does blow later on in the fight.
Yeah.
And I think
Big guy.
Joe's gonna be aware now. I don't think he's
Yeah.
gonna admit it's a head movement, but I think he's gonna have his blockers up. I think he's gonna march forward, and I think every time that Joe throws a shot, it's going down at the copper box. I think the crowd are gonna go nuts anyway.
Yeah.
And he throws. I think that's gonna influence the judges. And I got Joe Joyce on points. But it's gonna be tight. But I think he's gonna pull through from round 11 and 12. I think he's gonna have big rounds in those rounds, and I think he's gonna get the decision. That's what I believe.
First of all, I want to see him about 265, 270 on the scales on Friday. None of this 255 stuff. He wants to match Zhang's size for size and then use his volume against the speed of Zhang. So I want to see him nice and big as well.
How old is Zhang?
He's old, man.
He's not a baby either. He's older than Joe. He's 40 years of age now. So for him, it's last chance as well. For both these guys, more or less.
He lives on ginseng. That's what it is.
I've got to go.
Right. And on that note, massive pleasure to have Nick Pratt of Fight Disciples on. Go tune into his channel. Him and Mr. Catterall. It's a blinding channel. And the legend that is Vas Blackwood, or should I say Rory Breaker? Yeah, me.
Vas, let me ask you, man, before I go. I don't know whether you've heard another one of the cast members from Lock Stock, a good mate of mine, a real close family friend, Jake Abraham, has been diagnosed with terminal cancer. He's not in a great way right now, but what a sensational actor he was. He is, pardon my expression, he is. And just wanted to let you know, I know a lot of the cast have been reaching out to him and well wishes and stuff. Jake's a diamond of a guy, and he's got his family around him and everything else, but it's a tough time for him, his friends, and anyone that's a fan of that movie who knows that, like yourself, the part he played in the movie, he knocked it out the park, you know?
Yeah. I'm speechless, and I'm gonna have to look into this. But yeah, because he called me not too long ago, a few months ago. He called me, but thanks for telling me. And
yeah, man,
that's deep. That's deep. So you see, regardless of everything, you know,
exactly. Some things
we're
are
here for that bit of time, and do you know, I have to just say thank you very much for the time, Spencer. Thanks for having me.
Nah, you know what? Absolute pleasure. Remember to tune into Some Other Hood, which is out.
Hood. Yeah, watch out for it. Yeah, next month. But
19th of October, starring Vas Blackwood. I see so many people inside of that movie. It's going to be. I'm honored and privileged to have Nick and Vas. You guys have made my Sunday. Trust me.
Cheers, Spencer. Cheers, Vas.
God bless.
God bless. Take care, everyone. Take care. Thanks very much. Take care. Bye-bye.
Ladies and gentlemen, tell Vas Blackwood to try and not mash up my Saudi money, yeah? Nah, dream it, believe it, become it. Come on up. Next week, we are back with my brother from another mother, Babatunde Ajayi. I have barely missed the brother for the last 2 weeks now, but he shall be back. As you know, he's just been writing up in the comments. Big up Dutty Gal for the £5. Also, big up Bobby Wright. Take that. All the people. Take Me Back. Pirate Radio. Archives. What do you mean he's not back next week? What are you talking about? He's not back next week. What's he talking about? Yarde is fighting next week Saturday. So Babatunde Ajayi is back next week Sunday. Don't wind me up today, Manny. Before I just come and deal with you. Shola, thank you so much. Yemi, Country Don, my brother from another mother. Joe Barrow. I'm just going through the names here. Everyone who's jumped on. A guy called Jasmine. Thank you so much. Every single person that has come on here who has liked, who subscribed to the Fight Is Right channel. We had some brilliant guests today. It's been great. I am Spencer, the Knowledge Pharaoh, and in the famous words of my brother from another mother, Babatunde Ajayi, dream it, believe it, become it. Come on up. Peace, two fingers, we out. Thank you.